welcome back. I am so glad you're here. I am so looking forward to connecting with you today. It has been a bit of an hiatus from doing Art of Plenty because we shifted and released our season 1 of Beyond Business. If you haven't checked it out, go back, review the last 10 episodes that have been put out on the Art of Plenty podcast. It's such a good series. I absolutely loved it. And I don't want you to miss it because I learned so much from these women that talked and shared their entrepreneurial journeys. And I can't wait to figure out, how do we do this again? How do we have more conversations with women who are making a difference, who are not only changing their life, but the lives of those around them? Fabulous series because the women are so fabulous. We are diving back into our regular programming for Art of Plenty. We are back into personal development and my own stories related to personal development. This is the Art of Plenty. Can I just tell you that, I don't know if you noticed, for those of you who have watched Beyond Business, but we had a spelling error in there. And we're going to dive into that because if you know me, you know that is the kind of thing that bothers me to no end. But this time, when I discovered it, and I didn't even discover it, which is a little bit embarrassing, but when it came to the forefront, I went through this incredible process of letting it go. And I want to share that with you because here's the deal. All through life, we have to be able to let things go. We have to be able to move through things because we're not always in control. And if you're like me and you like to be in control and you like to have a lot of control around the situation, you know that that is never possible. There are always things out of control. There are always other things that you cannot plan for, and even when you do plan for, can throw things sideways. And one of the things that I know that I need in my life in order to stay peaceful, to stay calm, I need to be able to let things go, especially things that are no longer in my control. That's what we're diving into today in the Art of Plenty. Here we go. Okay, let me tell you the story. So we were creating the Beyond Business season, which I just talked about, and part of this project, it was sponsored by Telus, and therefore the 10 episodes were also released on Telus's Optic TV. Super cool, super exciting. We also had it on my YouTube channel. We had it on Spotify, Apple. So quite a few different places where you can actually watch the interviews with these entrepreneurial women from my area of where I live. When we created these episodes, we created like a beginning banner. And in the editing program that we used, there's no spell check. And there was a spelling error. Now, there were multiple people who looked at the episodes. Every time an episode got submitted to Telus, they reviewed it for things. And I don't know exactly what they were looking for, but they had things that they definitely had to check out. But we're talking a lot of eyes on this. So Telus had eyes on it. In-house with Art of Plenty, we had multiple people looking at it, not just the person who created the banner, but the people that were reviewing the edits. And I myself probably watched every episode 3 or 4 times. Now, to be fair to myself, we did not have the banner on every version that I watched. It primarily went on the last version. And there's something that happens in your brain when you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, and we don't really look at it. We even have someone on our team whose previous job was to notice things like that and to be checking things before they went out of house to make sure that everything was good, every T was crossed, things were spelled correctly, things were phrased correctly. And we all missed it. We all missed the air. And after it got released, I got a message from someone that has seen the show and mentioned that there was a spelling error in the banner. And when I got that message, I was sitting with my husband. I think we were out for lunch. And I want to tell you what happened, because this is probably one of the coolest experiences that I have had related to personal development. I took it in. I thought about the amount of work that had gone into this project, the amount of eyes that had already seen it, the inability for us to change parts of it. And it was almost spontaneous, but I did not get that feeling of like being irked. I did not get worked up. I did not get anxious or stressed. I just shrugged it off. I actually let it go, which is incredible for me that I did that. And we're going to dig into how I did that so that you could implement some of these skills. Because I know if you're a gal like me, letting things go can be tricky. What I did after that situation is no different than if I did have the reaction and the annoyance to the situation. I reached out to my person that I work with from Telus to find out if there was anything we can do. I suspected heavily that there would be nothing that we could do because all of these episodes had been submitted and uploaded to Telus months before the release. You can't just go back and change something like this. This is a big ship moving. I also was under the impression that if we pulled the episode off and corrected it on our YouTube channel, that we would lose the views that we had already been accumulated, which is something that matters to me. So if you haven't hit subscribe, I would love it if you hit subscribe if you are an active follower of The Art of Plenty. If you like the content we're producing, it really does make a difference to see people not only that are watching it, but when you share it with your friends, it really speaks to me because I know, okay, this content is hitting, this is making a difference. And that's why I do this. I want to help other people and I want people to live their best life. And I want to share the knowledge and wisdom that I have gained with others so that they can be in the best position that they can be in for their own lives. So if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. I would love it if you did. Send me your comments if there's something that you want me to talk about. I'm really interested in engaging with you because you are the reason that I'm doing this. So I knew that we wouldn't be able to change the episodes on some of the platforms without losing the views that we had, which impacts the show. So I went through the process with the team. Okay, who can do what to fix it? What can we do to fix it? Reached out to Telus. Telus said no. This is it. Every episode on Telus Optic TV is going to have incorrect spelling. And come on, we're professionals. We should be able to spell things. But that was just the reality. And get this. So there were some episodes that we hadn't released on our own that we were able to change because they hadn't come out yet at the time that we discovered the spelling error. So the person that had done the editing was going to go back and do some changes. And then guess what? I found out that they didn't actually change them all and that we have a few episodes after we found the error that aren't going to be changed because of just the way things unfolded, timing, computer issues. So I had 2 opportunities to get worked up and frustrated about this. And I'm so happy to say that that wasn't my reality. And you gotta know that this is the kind of situation that in previous years, in previous circumstances, I would not have been able to let this go. I would have been really, really annoyed. And not just mentally, like it's one of those things that would have just like ran around in my brain and just continued to irk me. But I would also have felt it in my body. Like I would have felt like that knot tightening in my stomach. I would have felt twisted. I would have felt tension running up through my shoulders and into my neck as I thought about it. And it would make it difficult for me to settle down or relax. It's the kind of thing that would have caused me to take it out on others. I don't know if you are like that, but there are times when I feel overloaded, I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, I feel frustrated, and the people that are close to me, the people that are around me, feel the brunt of it because I don't have enough control over my emotions in that moment to continue being loving and caring to those people that I actually love and care. And therefore, they get that snippy attitude or that harsh remark or just plain and simple, less patience when they're not deserving of less patience. They're not the reason that I'm acting that way. They're not the reason why I feel that way, but yet they get treated as though they are to blame. So that's how I would have dealt with this before. And it's not just as easy as saying, just let it go, get over it. I want you to know that because I have had people say that to me over the years. Just get over it. Just let it go. It's not like that. Just because we say that to people doesn't mean that we're actually capable of doing it. It's reminiscent to me of telling a child to calm down when they're all fired up. Kids don't always have the skills that they need in order to calm down. They don't even necessarily know what would that look like to be calm in this situation. Or if a person is experiencing a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress or panic in a moment, it's telling them to relax. If we don't know how to do it, we don't know how to do it. And just because somebody says you just got to relax doesn't mean that we can actually activate those parts of us into a position where we actually can relax. This is a skill. It's a skill to learn how to calm down when you're not calm. It's a skill to learn how to relax when you're not actually relaxed. And it's a skill to learn how to let things go when something is bothering you. And I'm so pleased with myself that this is a skill that I've honed. And the reason that I know that I've honed it is in that moment when I found out that there was a spelling error and I reached out to, how did this happen? And the how doesn't really matter. And the way that we're rectifying it doesn't necessarily matter. In the moment, I need to just be calm and let it go. And I knew it was a skill that I've developed because I didn't have the racing thoughts. I didn't have the irkness in my spirit. I didn't feel all twisted up. My thoughts weren't going. I didn't have the knot in my stomach. I genuinely was able to let it go. It doesn't mean that I didn't do anything about it. I still reached out to Telus. I still talked to the person that made the error initially. I still talked to the team about how are we going to rectify this? What can we do to make it better? So in this situation, letting it go didn't mean that we weren't going to do something about it. It just meant that I was letting go of the emotional baggage that would have come from a situation like this. When we're developing and honing these skills, it's something that we actually have to practice doing. I always liken that to first aid because when you're learning first aid, the reason for the repetition in a first aid class where you go over things and you drill them and you drill them and you continue to drill them even after you have your first aid, that's why lifeguards will continue to practice some of the skills, or there will continue to be drills when people have to perform, first response type things. You continue to practice those skills because in the moment when crisis is happening, you need to be able to act efficiently, effectively, and in the correct way. You have to implement the right protocol in the moment. And in the situation of chaos, in the situation of crisis, you don't necessarily have time to think it all through because you will have that adrenaline rush that comes with it. So you need to be able to quickly grab onto those skills. And the way that you grab onto those skills is by practice and repetition because you're strengthening that pathway in your brain so that in the moment of crisis, it becomes essentially your first response. And personal development is the same way. So we can develop pathways in our brain that enable us to activate certain behaviors or responses to situations that maybe in the past we would have struggled with. And this is why I feel so great about this because this is actually the very first time that this has happened to me where I haven't had to do the work and I just react the way that I want to react. Normally, I would have had to drum up all my regular skills for letting things go and bring all of those into place in order to get to the point where I could let it go. So what are the skills? What are the skills that I have honed that enabled me to do this spontaneously in this situation? Well, I've been thinking about that because, as I said, I didn't actually have to go through the process in the moment of this situation. It just happened. So one of the skills that I have developed is mental fortitude, mental discipline around my thought life. I have spent the last 2.5 decades working on my thought life, taking certain thoughts captive, not allowing my brain to go in different directions or to run with things or to circle things. And I have made a practice of stopping certain thoughts that don't always serve me. And so because of that practice that I have developed in multitude of situations, because this is relevant, these types of skills are relevant for a whole bunch of different circumstances or situations. So in this one, bang, when the situation came in, my brain knew what to do and it did not entertain thoughts. So I didn't even start down that circle trajectory that I could have. I have also created pathways in my brain that remind me that there are things that I can control and things that I can't control. And yes, this is a situation that was within my control in the sense that I could have caught the spelling error before, but I didn't. And at this point, it was too late. And I have pathways in my brain that have taught me through repetition, through multiple circumstances, that there is not any benefit to myself or to the situation if I hold on to this or get emotionally worked up about things that are now out of my control. It does not help me pivot and do things that I now need to do in order to change things, such as reaching out to Telus, such as reaching out to the team. I know that those steps can happen regardless of whether or not I'm worked up. So what is the point of being worked up? It's not going to serve me. It often makes things more complicated if I'm getting negatively emotional about the situation. So I've developed pathways in my brain to know that it's better for me and for the outcome if I can just let this go quicker. The other thing that I activated is I know what peace and comfort, I know what those sensations are in my body and what they feel like. I know what it feels like when my body is calm. I know what it feels like in my neck. I know what it feels like in my stomach. I know what it feels like in my feet and in my hands, because I've made a practice in my meditation practice to actually bring those feelings of peace in. So because I have a practice of feeling the sensation of peace in my full body, I could bring that into my body. And because I do it on a regular basis, my body has a different resting rate. That's not quite the right words to describe it, but it has a place that it fluctuates more in peace than it did in previous years in my life where I feel like I operated more in an anxious or stressful state. Right now, my peaceful state is quite a bit higher. So because of that, it's easy to grab onto because I practice it more frequently. So because of these 3 skills that I have honed, when this situation arose, I instantly went into these. It was spontaneous. And I did it not just the first time, but I did it the second time when I found out that there were going to be more episodes on the YouTube channel that didn't have the spelling correction because of some circumstances that happened within our workplace. And I didn't know that that was the case until, oh, yep, it's happening again. We're right back there. But I've honestly been able to let it go. And it may sound like, oh, well, that's not a big deal to have a spelling error, or most people won't even notice. I mean, after all, your whole organization missed it and Telus missed it. It's probably not that big of a deal. But I want you to know that even though I've been able to let it go, this is actually a big deal to me. Creating Beyond Business really mattered to me. And being able to create that show and interview those women, I wanted to put my very best forward. I wanted to do a good job. I have a very high standard for myself, and I've always been that way, but it really meant something to me. This was something that was very important to me. And we put a lot of resources, a lot of energy into creating it. And to see something like that mistake is very disappointing to me. And it wasn't easy to let go because I didn't care. I would say it was in spite of the fact that it was so important to me, I was still able to let it go. And I think that's probably the best part of all this is, and that's what I'm taking away, is that, wow, I really have changed. We really can make a difference. We as women, we as individuals, we can change. And the ways that we are, like things that are so connected to our identity, like my intensity of wanting to do things right and holding on to things. I mean, that's part of the reason why I am the way that I am. Those characteristics are a part of me and have been a part of my identity most of my life. And to be able to say that those parts that don't always serve us, we can change those is, well, it's humbling, and it reminds me of that's why I do the work that I do. That's why I counsel couples. That's why I coach women, because we can actually change, and we can change for the better. And those things that don't serve us, we can work with those, and we can do something about it so that we don't have to be held back by the things that have held us back in the past. It just makes me feel so good to see that I've put the work in and the time in, and there's fruit. And if I have fruit from doing that work, other people can have that same fruit. You too can create change in your life and be the person that you know you're meant to be. And that's what this is all about. That's what the art of plenty is all about. That's what the content that I create is all about, is that we can change. There is a way through. I'm so honored that you would take time out of your day to listen in and hear my stories. It is a pleasure. So thank you for that. Have an amazing day.